Tony Alva?
Oh, killer.
Do you remember Tony? How old are you? You know who Tony Alva is.
Yeah.
He was like skateboard hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be our guest.
How old is he? He's like 30 or something, isn't he?
Oh, old, like 30, right?
Like you.
Give me the friggin' surf report, prick.
Here's the lowdown.
That are 17 and under. And we got listeners, like I told you, that 55-year-old trucker that I met the other day in Northridge. It's like, dude, I listen to Tony Alva.
Oh, killer.
Do you remember Tony? How old are you? You know who Tony Alva is.
Yeah.
He was like skateboard hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be our guest.
How old is he? He's like 30 or something, isn't he?
Oh, old, like 30, right?
Like you.
Give me the friggin' surf report, prick.
Here's the lowdown.
That are 17 and under. And we got listeners, like I told you, that 55-year-old trucker that I met the other day in Northridge. It's like, dude, I listen to your show all the time at work. Now, I'm guaranteed this show, sort of the people that are between the ages of, let's say, 26 and maybe 37 that grew up in L.A. Now, I never thought, like, if I was 14 and somebody was doing a show about, like, the 50s or the 60s, I'd be, like, bored to tears because I think it was a lame time then. If you were growing up in the early 80s, late 70s in L.A., Southern California, dude, we had it was just killer stuff was going on. And we're reminiscing those times. There were great clubs going on. The Starwood. My wife doesn't even remember the Starwood. New Wave nights, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. They'd have killer punk bands. You could see a band like the Germs play with the Go-Go's opening up. And the Go-Go's were opening up all the shows. There were clubs like the Vex, Godzilla, Mask. Remember, even Gazzari's. There were killer rock clubs like Gazzari's. I never went there, actually. Oh, I went there once, right before it closed. And I had my clubs even, like in the mid-'80s. Everybody smoked pot. That was the drugs we were doing. We were smoking pot. We're smoking Maui Wowie and smoking Thai sticks. And if you were real bad, you took Roarer 714s. Lemons, which were first?
I think
Roarers were first. That's what that's where the bad kids were doing, and that's where the drugs they were doing. We ate Pop Rocks. But if you had Pop Rocks with soda, you would die. Red Vans were cool. If you had red Vans, you were cool. Chicks were wearing tube tops. You could pull down tube tops without getting arrested for sexual harassment. You were a rocker, or maybe you were rockabilly, or maybe you were mod, or maybe you were punk, or maybe you were new romantic, or maybe you were new wave. And you get to watch stupid movies which had people that you knew dressed up in stupid clothes to represent that stupid scene. If you lived in the Valley when you were a little kid, maybe you'd go to Van Nuys Boulevard, or maybe you'd go to Chantry Flats, or maybe you'd meet everybody that you knew over at the skating rink. Dude, it was killer back then. And I hate to sound like I'm reminiscing. People call up. There was a real punk scene then. You'd go to a lot of shows. There were killer shows. If you went to a show and you got in a fight, you know what you'd have to be scared about if you got in a fight? You'd have to be scared about getting your butt kicked. Not getting shot. I miss it. And skateboarding was the biggest thing ever. Now, skating's still big, but now it's illegal to skateboard on the sidewalk. And we had skateboard parks all over the place. Skateboarding was so big, there was a skateboard team that was just sponsored by Pepsi that would travel all over the place. There were skateboard movies. And I guess skating's still big. Maybe I'm just so out of touch. I know the wheels are too small. You need a little rock, you fall. You used to get shot at. You jump in people's backyards to skate pools. You knew people that had a helicopter so you could find out where the empty pools were. You would know when people were out of town so you could jump into their backyard and skate in their empty pools. And music was better. I think it was. There were bands in the early 80s that never made it, and bands sound exactly like them now and are selling jillions of records. That's what we're talking about today. 1-800-97-197-77, and our guest is Tony Alva. This is Real Radio 97.1. It sounds like the same stuff. The only difference is it's selling like 5 million records now. The number is 1-800-97-197-77. We're talking about a time span, I would say, from like 79 to maybe 88, maybe? Sure, whatever. and Tony Alva is our guest. Tony was like, you were like the hero. You were like a role model, for like so many people. In what was the year that you think like skateboarding itself, was it its like peak? Gotta get right on the mic.
Probably in the late 70s, I would think.
And the whole scene was like, skateboarding was like the hugest thing. Like it was bigger then than it is now, wasn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. The media fully picked up on it, and they hyped it up back then. And, basically, I was just one of the ringleaders of a group of guys that were from the beach, from the Santa Monica area. That's where I grew up. And we became basically pumped up like as this rogue band of skaters that were infringing on people's privacy, skating backyard pools, drainage ditches. We ruled the streets basically in Santa Monica and still do on a given day. But that was like the Dogtown era. And they pumped that up in the media and made a big rivalry of it between some of the southern skaters. And, they just kind of used it to pump skating up. And I think it was healthy for it, because it created entrepreneurial businesses. It created basically a lifestyle for me to make a living and still have a good time doing it.
And you did. You started Alva Skateboards, which you're still actually doing.
Yeah, I do snowboards, I do skateboards, a small clothing line to go with that, and basically I have dealers up and down the coast and the whole western part of the United States I go dealer direct to, and the rest is handled by distributors and stuff. And that's where I see you a lot of times. We see each other at the trade shows and stuff.
So the killer thing is you sort of, through all the years, you've pretty much stayed in the whole scene.
Yeah, I started the company when I was 19 because I was sick of basically pumping up sales for companies that were, they were making all the dough. Because you got to make some money for yourself, especially when it's, you're like you were saying. We grew up in a special era and everything, and it'll never be like that again. But really, things are getting rougher, and you got to be able to make a living. And I enjoy what I do for a living, and I'm just stoked that I've had the opportunity to do this.
Keeps us young, still get to play.
Yeah.
That was the funny thing. There's some guys on that that shows on earlier, and basically people wouldn't know it, but listening to the regular guys who are on the station who are pretty much the same age, but it's like they got old. It like gets to a point that it doesn't matter. You can still. We're like in the 30 thing and still doing pretty much the same stupid stuff that we did when we're 19, except we've learned our lessons.
Well, you don't heal quite as quick, but, the thing is, you learn from experience. If you fall, you learn how to eventually do that and not get hurt as bad, And there's a lot of kids out there that are skating the streets, nowadays, and they do some incredible stuff. There's some really heavy-duty stunts going down. But then again, there's stuff that the old school guys do that are basically, will never be repeated. That whole era and everything created certain moves. And the guys that I ride with and some of the guys that basically grew up in that era, are still doing things that the kids can't even conceive. They wouldn't be able to do because it's just totally in a different train of thought. More surf-oriented and basically going back to where the roots of skateboarding came from.
Because I remember they did, I think it was Board in Orange County, where they had a big show where all these bands played and they had a big ramp set up. And all the, I hate, when I say kids, I feel like such a dork, but all the kids were skating it, and Dwayne Peters was also out there. And I wasn't even sure if it was him, and I was watching him going, man, that guy's shredding, and I could just tell, that it had the style like when we used to skate. I was never that great, but I used to skate all the same parks that you guys and everybody used to skate. And it was killer watching, the guys that are our age still out there. God, that sounds old, doesn't it?
Well, he was from the Orange County area. He was like the resident pro at Big O, which was, really cool because there was a really heavy scene going on, down in Orange County at that time, too. Because the punk rock music that was going with the whole scene, really pumped it up. Things were happening, and like you said, it'll never be like that again, but it was really great to have been part of that, It's amazing that Dwayne Peters is still alive, the master of disaster. This guy is just the Evel Knievel of skateboarding.
Right.
And he looks like Sid Vicious, and he's one of my best friends, so all I can say is basically, hey, I'm stoked he's still here on this planet, still skating and doing his thing.
We're talking about that time from like the late 70s to the late 80s and stuff. When you used to get in a fight and maybe you get beat up, you wouldn't get shot. Brad from Santa Monica, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
Hey, how you doing, Tony?
Hey, Brad, what's going on, man?
Hey, I've been checking out about my first board at Skate City. I'm sure you remember that. You did a couple ads for them.
Right on they were up there near the west side, on West LA, kind of the fringe of Santa Monica there.
Yeah, I just want to say, I've been skating 20 years now, and you're one of the reasons I'm still skating. I read your Thrasher 95, that little dogtail thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I'm still around, just to see that, there's one of the guys I grew up with, me and my brother, used to be a household name, Alva. And want to know if you're ever going to put out like a photo book or something, or even what about the skateboard movie you were in? That's never going to come out.
That's an excellent question, and I just want to thank you first of all for the compliment, because there's a lot of people out there, you know, that don't remember basically where skateboarding came from, the roots of skateboarding, and you know, not to get off track from what you're asking. Just wanted to thank you first because I appreciate the compliment.
It seems like your attitude's totally different. I mean, back in then, you were like Mad Dog. You were like, all the Dogtown guys were like these pricks. They were like, they'd come to your pool, they'd kick your ass. And it's like now you've got a whole different, is there like a lot of lessons or stuff that you learned back then that sort of...
Well, I'm one of those guys that has to learn the hard way sometimes, you know, and like if you, it's like you don't want to keep hurting yourself, and basically sometimes you got to mature a little bit, you know, as you get older and face up to more responsibility. I think that mellows you out a little bit, but if somebody steps on my toes, you know,
Right.
I can be Mad Dog that I was as a kid. I try not to be that way because society doesn't look, you know, very well on that. Plus, I'm trying to set an image basically that I think is healthy.
Crap.
Bull crappy. But that's not, you know, the kind of stuff that I advocate, and I think that skateboarding has given me the opportunity to live a more healthy lifestyle that's more realistic to really what's gonna, you know, keep you basically out on the street and keep you happy and healthy.
This is Lynn from LA. You're on Real Radio 97.1.
Yeah, Ricky, I totally agree with everything you're saying right now, and I remember, you know, going to shows in the late 80s and stuff like that, and I saw Op Ivy and everything like that, and I totally agree with everything you're saying about, you know, when there was a fight, nothing would happen except that you got your ass kicked, and, you know, someone would come up to you and, you know, help you up and everything like that. Now, I mean, I see little kids getting trampled and stuff like that. It's just crazy.
You know, one of the funny thing is when I got the job over at HEADBANGER'S Ball, they were like, and my first guest on was Anthrax, and I was talking about slamming, and they're like, Ricky, it's moshing. And I was like, what? And that was the first time, because I'd always thought it was always just slamming.
Oh,
so I had to get, you know, my metal education, and so everybody's like, no, dude, it's moshing. Like, oh, I didn't know there was like a difference.
Yeah, it's so weird that, I mean, now they have all this weird terminology, and I see...
Well, me and Louie are trying to bring the pogo back.
Pogo?
Yeah, we're doing the pogo. We're going to all the shows and pogoing.
I pogo at all the
And then you
clubs.
get shot. Well, then thanks for your call, man.
Okay, thanks a lot, man.
We got a break. We'll be back. The number's 1-800-971-9777. Tony Alva is our guest on Real Radio 97.1. 719777. This is Doug from Laguna Hills.
How you doing?
What's up, Doug?
Hey, do you guys remember a movie called Skater Dater?
That was really old. That was like a 1960s movie.
Early 60s.
Was it that early?
Yeah, that was one of the first skateboard movies probably ever, and it was shot in black and white Super 8 and somewhere on a hill in Laguna or something like
I
that.
remember
Right
my
where
dad
you're from.
rented it at the library and showing it on the projector.
You know what's so
in the
weird?
basement.
I remember the exact same thing. Your dad renting. No, I remember that my mom or somebody that we would rent it at the library. You'd have to go to the library to rent a film and have a projector and show it. And there was like one guy, and they would do things like the coffin.
Exactly.
And stand on, and this guy stood on his head.
Yeah.
And he like met a chick, and there was like sort of like a story to it
That
with
was
no
a great
words.
movie. I wanted to be that kid.
Now we got to speak about movies. You were in a movie, Tony. When skateboarding was like at its peak, there was a movie that were you in Skateboard or Freewheelin'?
I basically was a principal character in Skateboard, which was...
Is that with Leif Garrett?
Yeah, that was with Leif Garrett and Alan Garfield, Kathleen Lloyd. You know, she was in Missouri Breaks with Marlon Brando and stuff, and it was produced by the guy that I think that went on and produced Miami Vice and stuff like that, too. So, you know, it was like a kind of a weird, cheesy B-movie cult.
But now, will that movie ever come out on video, you think?
Oh, yeah, it's been out on video, as a matter of fact.
We gotta rent that.
Yeah, it's out on video because, well, the reason I know is because the Screen Actors Guild, you know, is
getting the
collected
checks.
stuff from that, you know, that's kind of sat for a while, and I found out that it was sitting there, so I had to go pick up some money. Thank you very much from them, but it's in video.
Now, somebody asked you, and I sort of cut him off as I have been known to do, about a book, about putting out a book of all the different, like, if we had like a book of just like all the old things, like the skateboard parks and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, we never...
all the times you used to have.
We never answered his question. The question basically relates to something that's been done already by a good friend of mine that grew up in that era and documented not only rap music and punk rock, but skateboarding. And it's like, it's one of my homies from New York, and he's got a book called FU Heroes. You can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it's not actually FU, it's the other one.
But you know, it's it basically shows a photo documentation of that whole era, and also it has captions that are very informative, and Ice-T and a lot of famous skateboarders such as Jay Adams. And
Now, what happened to people like Jay Adams?
Jay, he's living in Hawaii. He has a son, and he's a surfer, and he works, you know, in the surfboard industry, and he's as healthy as ever and as ornery as ever, and a hell of a surfer.
And I know that Shogo Kubo still works for Dogtown.
Shogo was just in town. He was around.
I saw
for a while.
him.
I'd just like to say peace out to all of those guys. Those are all my brothers.
And the number's 1-800-971-9777. We're talking about that era, not only in skateboarding, but just the whole scene. I mean, it's like, you know, the new school kids. They don't know what it was like. There was something about that time. Ray from San Pedro, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
Hey, Ricky, what's up?
What's up, Ray?
Hey, Tony Alva, the man.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. Hey, I just called, man. I heard you on here, and I just had to tell you what an impact you had on my life as a young skater.
Thank you.
And watching all these young punks nowadays, it just really kind of ruins the sport. But, you know, this...
Well, how does it... Do you think that these guys, I mean, the people are ruining... How are they ruining the sport, Ray?
Their attitude towards the lifestyle of skating.
But, Ray, we had that attitude, too, didn't we, Tony?
Yeah, but you know what it is, too, that bugs these guys, like this guy talking right now, because it bugs me occasionally, but I love the youth, you know, the kids are what it's all about, is that they don't have as much respect anymore, not like we did when we had our heroes and our idols. These kids are trying to word up on everybody and let them know how cool they are. And this skating is an expression of how they feel about the environment around them, the world, and what's going on with them. So it's all pretty healthy. It's all pretty cool. But it's okay. Competition's good, too. So it's all right that it bugs you.
All right, well...
Thanks for your call, Ray.
All right, thanks a lot.
Did you realize back then when you were like 19 that you were a role model? I mean, this was all over the world.
Well, you know, because I traveled the world skateboarding, I knew that it was like that, you know, because it was a little bit of a rock and roll, lifestyle, which I enjoyed and stuff. But I've tried to set a good image for the kids, but I'll admit straight out, you know, that I've had a rebellious attitude at times. And I just think that it's good to just be yourself. I think that that's really important. And that if you don't do that, you only live once, and every day you got to live it to your fullest and just be yourself.
Because back then, I remember that everybody used to wear Vans, and then you started wearing these suede Nike high tops. And all the suede Nike high tops in our neighborhood were gone because all the skaters wanted the suede Nike high top.
When you're doing feature films and you get the opportunity to do that, I mean, you get sponsored. These big companies want to get involved with you. Same as, you know, what's going on now. I mean, you look at all these companies, up and coming companies. You know, there's the Airwalk and there's the Vans, and then there's all the other big shoe companies that try to get into that game and play that specialty item kind of game with skateboarding. They're just kind of pimping the scene in a way. And what I try to do is when it comes to business and all that, the people that I relate to and that I sell to, you know, all my dealers on the west side and stuff, are people that I believe are into it because they love the sport, because they really dig it, not because they're just trying to make a buck off of it.
Yeah, you see like a company, let me use this as an example, like Black Flies, which makes sunglasses, which is actually probably a multi-million-dollar company.
Well, now it is. They started out. Yeah.
But they've still got the same attitude of just a bunch of surfers, skaters putting out sunglasses.
They started out as that, and they've stayed as that, and that means basically that at least they have roots. You know, there's a thing that I say is give the youth roots, then let them have wings. If you can teach them the basic principles and where they're coming from, and you know where it all started, I think they appreciate it more. And then in the long run, it will help their skating and give them that style and that attitude. I think that started then.
Scott from Anaheim, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
Yeah, I remember like the backyard parties. All the metal bands you'd hear by word of mouth. All this metal band's playing at this.
You got to watch the language. We're on the radio. They don't have backyard parties like they used to. There was a backyard, and the weirdest thing is I don't know how people would know, but like there'd be a party like 5 miles away, and everybody would know.
Word of mouth.
You know, everybody would know, and they'd always get busted.
Well, because it was so underground. I mean, Black Flag or TSOL or the Minutemen or somebody, or the Descendants or somebody like that would play. I mean, come on, the word gets around when these were hardcore underground. You know, Vicious Circle, the Germs. Those bands were epic, and not only that, they were the original. They were what makes, I guess, what you'd call now alternative music, really so like just cheesy to me. But you know, that's only my opinion. I mean, I basically know some guys that still play that kind of music that are hardcore. They're on Epitaph Records. They're on different record labels. That totally rip. But that's because they're doing basically what came from that era, and they're not selling it out. They're not making it, just like a thing where they just want to make money and just like capitalize off it. They're doing it because they believe in it, because that's the sound that they enjoy, and that's what the kids want to hear as well.
Right. Let's talk to Andrew from West Hills. You're on Real Radio 97.1. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Ricky. I'm going to take you back, how about to 1975, Bessemer Street and Sunny Slope, Irwin Street Elementary School.
I went there.
I know you did.
He knows your number.
Does the name Andy Resnick ring a bell?
Is this you?
Yeah.
Dude, this was my friend when I was like in elementary school.
All right.
He used to live on Bessemer, and he had and when you were like a little kid, you wanted anything to skate, and his driveway was just like a little sloped, you know? So we'd like go skate his driveway. This was like before we could skate ramps or pools, or like way before that stuff.
Wait. You remember when you said that you don't remember having metal wheels, but I do remember taking, I think it was your sister Karen's roller skates, and we did take the wheels off of a piece of wood.
I made a skateboard,
Yeah,
and that
we
same
did
day it
do
got
that.
stolen.
Oh,
Same day it got stolen.
yeah. And
Oh.
then we used to go to
Valley College.
Valley College
And
and go
skate.
down the circular ramps.
Yep.
Do that whole thing.
Yeah. So
Oh,
what
yeah.
do you do now?
I'm in the coffee business. I own a coffee bar.
Dude, send us coffee. Send us coffee. Be like, nice talking to you, Andy.
I'd love to send you some.
Send us coffee. I'll give you the address at the ending of the show. That's kind of cool. It's just a trip. There was so much stuff that was going on there, you know? Like, when I was a kid, I lived in the Valley, and we used to go to Van Nuys Boulevard, where they used to have cruising on Van Nuys Boulevard. And, you know, there were fights there and stuff like that, but it wasn't like you'd get shot, you know? And then for a couple of years, I mean, a little bit later in the 80s, they'd have the LA street scene, which actually there were riots at, but you would see every type of band from, you know, Latino music to punk to metal to everything, you know? And now they will never do stuff like that anymore. And there used to be big festivals going on everywhere, and
There
you
was
can't
more
do that
of a
stuff.
blend, all the different, you know, ethnic cultures and stuff. It's kind of strange how, you know, even in LA, of the diversity that we have, that a lot of people, you know, separate themselves into these different, you know, cliques and stuff. So, you know, everybody just needs to loosen up, especially when you see skaters on the street and stuff. The kids are just out there trying to have a good time. They don't have skate parks and stuff. They don't have places that the city gives them to skate anymore because of liability. That might happen again soon, you know, like it did in the 70s and stuff, but it's not happening right now. So people just need to, like, you know, understand that, especially skater kids, snowboarders, you see them on the slopes, you think they're obnoxious. These guys are just out trying to have a good time, and a lot of them, you know, are doing this stuff, and they're making a living off it and stuff. So, you know, some of you people out there that have attitudes about, you know, some of us out there, because I'm one of them. Just chill out, man.
We're talking about an era. We're talking about 78 to about 80 years on the road. 1-800-97-197-77 is the number. Tony Alva is our guest. This is Real Radio 97.1. It's 70s, the mid to late 80s. Tony Alva is our guest. Phone number is 1-800-97-197-77. And we were talking earlier about the skateboard parks, because I used to work at the Marina Del Rey Skateboard Park, and there were parks everywhere.
Yeah.
And now there's no place, and now there's laws that the kids can't skate on the streets, but there's no skateboard parks.
Well, yeah, there were, you know, most of the ones that were here in the States, they're gone. They're dozed and stuff. And that was because of liability, and also the people that invested in them, they didn't know what they were doing, you know. Basically, they just saw some fad that they could jump on and maybe make a buck. The best places to go, if you want to know the truth, for skate parks are in some of the other, like, corners of the world, such as
That's what I've heard,
Australia,
yeah.
or
Brazil or
England,
something.
Brazil
That's
is,
what I heard.
and they're free. And we don't have that stuff out here, basically, because everybody's so happy. Everybody wants to make a buck off somebody. If they go out and bust their butt, then they should have to pay for their own medical services. Either that, or, you know what we used to do with guys, basically, that would get hurt and come in on private property? We would drag them out on the street and say they fell off a curb. They were in a backyard pool and stuff like that. I mean, that sounds cruel, but when it comes to liability and saving your spots, when it comes to skateboarding, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, it was so much better. Back then, in the 80s or 70s, if you had sex, you got to be careful. You might get herpes. That was the worst.
Wow.
You get a lot of a lot of boning back in, well, not for me, not until like after 80 or something, but not for lack of trying.
Well, junior high school, the Led Zeppelin years, boy, there was some,
Right.
that was,
Everybody had the
rocking years.
Yes T-shirts on.
Yeah,
Remember?
well-
Everybody had the Yes T-shirts on.
Either that or Rick Griffin stuff was hot, too. He's a classic artist.
I bet Louis remembers that stuff. Louis is all about that stuff. Let's talk to Steve from Santa Monica. What's up, Steve?
How are you guys?
Good.
Good to hear that Tony's still kicking it around. You guys make me feel like I'm ancient because I'm over 40, but I remember surfing at POP Pier when Tony was just coming up, skating around there, and we'd used to skate bowls together out at up at Bellagio School and up in top of Kenner and all over the
So
place.
everybody
down
used
there.
to skate the banks at Kenner.
Well, the
school.
Bellagio drop he's talking about, that was a manly drop. I saw a few guys take out their teeth on the pole down there at the bottom, if you know where the transition is at the bottom. Bellagio was the test for all the heavy duty. It's like a big wave. It's like riding Mavericks.
It was a place where, like you were just getting back to, this is the days where, you know, and to get back to your party scene, where everybody now, the reason they don't have I think the word of mouth and the big parties, because people are afraid of the, you know, lawsuits and everything like that.
That's
And,
that's
there
unfortunate.
You pick yourself up and then, you know, go skate or go to the hospital after you got done skating in some of these places.
Well, dust yourself off and, you know, put yourself back together. I mean, basically, you know, when you have a skateboard injury, I mean, if it's serious, go to the hospital, man. It's obvious if you've broken something.
Right, but the old days, we used to just get up and walk away and then go back to the next park or wherever we were going to skate the next day instead of going to the, you know, see what we can make on $1.
But Steve, what about other than the skating? What about the whole scene back then in general?
Well, I used to manage to start with, so I know all about what you're talking about. I saw a lot of it come through there, the bands.
And for people that don't know where the Starwood is, it's on Santa Monica. It was on Santa Monica Boulevard in Crescent Heights, right?
Correct.
That's where it was. There was like a big, huge club there where there's now like a mini mall or something.
That's right. It was a fun place, and it was kind of like today's, where the whiskey has all different bands of anybody and anybody could be there. But it was just another era where, you know, some of them made it, some of them didn't.
Yeah.
But they used to have like I think it was like Tuesdays and Wednesdays was New Wave nights, and they'd have like punk bands play there. And they used to just call it New Wave nights.
Well, they've had like Nervous Gender or somebody really freaky from out of the, you know, just out of the closet come and play. I mean, there were some really bizarre bands back then. I mean, there was the Flyboys, there was the Plugs, X. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, if you were there then, that was just a classic time. The Starwood, unfortunately, I mean, they should have just like kept that place as a club, but you can't say. I mean, people are losing money on the business, they're going to get rid of it. And there was a lot of trouble that went down there, though. The cops were there constantly. It was close to the gay area of town. Punks and gays at that time, you know, didn't mix too well. Now everybody, you know, the whole sexuality thing is a lot different. But back then, it was pretty macho in the punk scene.
And since we're in that neighborhood, when the Starwood closed, another place that's now gone, where did everybody go to eat?
Down to Okie Dog.
Down to Okie Dog.
Crazy place like
The
that.
fact that we're still alive after eating at Okie Dogs is enough, just when you think about it. The fact that there's people that are still alive
We're
after
well
that.
preserved inside.
God. Bob from Valencia, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
Hey, Ricky. Hey, Tony. What's happening?
Hey, man, and what's up?
Hey, nothing. Hey, I wanted to tell you that special CD that you guys are opening your show with. That's a jamming CD.
I had you want to know how long I've had that special CD?
How long?
About 4 hours.
4 hours?
I just bought it on CD. I saw all this stuff that I went and I bought Hershey Boys on CD.
Oh, no way.
Dude, that was this the best record ever?
Yes, it
Sham
was.
69 Hershey Boys. I bought it today on CD.
A lot of
I
the
don't
Orange
have any of
County
this
bands,
stuff on
they looked
CDs.
up like, oh, what was that one band? Not the Hated. There was a couple bands in HB that fully modeled their whole deal after like Sham 69 and stuff.
What was funny? Rank and File.
Well, like
which used to be-
China
remember-
White or China White, like guys like that, all those guys.
Still
from
have
that.
Danger Zone. But remember, the funny thing is that Rank and File used to be called The Dills, and they had a song called Kill Hippies, and then they became Rank and File and look like hippies.
And then I had a band called The Scoundrels, and we had a song called Rankin' on the Dills.
Oh,
It
really?
was kind of like a country punk song.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. We interrupted.
Hey, no big deal, man. Hey, whatever happened to that loser, Leif Garrett, that was in that skateboard movie?
I know.
He lost his hair.
Have you seen him?
No.
Dude, he's on VH1, which I shouldn't say because I'll probably end up there one day. No, he's on. Everybody is swearing. You got to stop swearing.
Sorry, man. Hey,
Louis going off on the delay button today.
Because they're old school guys,
But
man.
you know what?
It's inbred.
Leif Garrett was smart because the thing is, I don't know if he started to lose his hair. Guys, if you start to lose your hair, shave it all off, okay? Don't go for that, like, comb-over thing. Don't go for wearing the hat. Just shave it off, because that way he looks like, hey, man, I think he, like, shaved his head bald and it's got, like, a goatee. And if I was losing my hair, that's what I'd do.
Well, that's what Andre
I
Agassi
remember
just
being
did.
on the Chips, and that was, not only was that a gay show, but he was just gay in that. Then my sister had this stupid album, and I always laughed at that, because that dude was just a retard. He went out.
Yeah, but you had that Brooke Shields poster, didn't you?
Or did you have his pinup from Tiger Beat back in the 70s? That was a classic.
Well, I never had the pinups. I had the Brooke Shields and the Farrah Fawcett and the I Fix Farrah Fawcett's poster.
In that red bathing suit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sporting high beams.
I know what.
Nice.
I'm reading your email, and if you ever saw like Playboy that came out a year ago with Farrah Fawcett in it,
Oh, yeah.
you
I
know
got it.
why those high beams were on. She has got nipples that look like the fingers are coming out of those things. They're like about 4 inches long. It scared the crap out of me. If I would have known that poster wouldn't have been on my wall. I would have had nightmares. Tony Alva is our guest. The number's 1-800-971-9777. It's Real Radio 97.1. The phone number's 1-800-971-9777. I mean, since we're playing this, just might as well mention that there is a new SD record coming out soon. I think it's called White Light, White Heat, White Trash. And it's supposed to be pretty good. And they're going to be playing Hootenanny July 7th. Tony Alva is our guest on Real Radio 97.1. Do you ever go to shows anymore?
Yeah. I usually
Are
go
there
to
any of the
shows.
new bands that you like that are playing?
Well, DFL. I dig DFL.
Which
They're
are some of the
probably-
older guys.
Yeah, they're some of the older guys, but they're playing a young, they're playing a young, energetic brand of music. And they're hooked up. They've got Adam producing
From the
their
Beastie
stuff.
Boys.
Yeah, and that whole crew, those guys all got a lot of good energy.
The phone number is 1-800-971-9777. We're talking about a certain era. If you weren't there, you missed out. John from Glendale, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
Hey, you brought back a lot of memories. I was just thinking about that. I was moving my toolboxes this morning on my Z-Flex. I don't think I've ever used that since the Boogie Bowl days.
That's sacrilegious moving stuff on your board. You got to ride it.
Boogie Bowl was the worst skate park. It was all
wasn't
bumpy. It was in like
man.
Glendale.
Oh, yeah, man, I broke my collarbone and about 42 stitches in the back of my head.
Well, no wonder you're moving stuff on your board instead of riding it.
Oh, that thing weighed over 20 pounds.
The big fiberglass ones.
Oh, yeah, man. I've broken my shin twice with it, and, oh, man.
You're a warrior.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of the Warriors.
Good work, guys.
Oh, thanks a lot for calling,
Thanks.
John. Let's talk to Scott from Fullerton. Scott, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
How's it going, Ricky? How's it going, Tony?
Pretty good.
Hey, Tony, I skated with you way back in the late 70s. In Fullerton, I turned you on a spot called the V. I was skating for Sims at the time, and you were with Logan Earthski.
Wow, that was quite a while ago.
You were that would have been like in the early 70s?
No, it was actually mid-70s.
Mid-70s.
76, 77.
Yeah, because I started Alva about 78, and that was right after the men's overall World Professional Skateboard Championship, which I won the overall title at.
Right, yeah, I remember that. Why is it nowadays, I mean, the skate competitions just seem to be like all vert-oriented, and they have that, the weird street doing the rails and stuff like that, but the days of the freestyle, the nose wheelies and stuff like that, and there's no more slalom competition.
That's one thing they don't have. But
The technology is really why skating has gone in the direction that it has, because kids are basically into doing the most crazy stuntman technological flipper tricks in the world, and it's good. I think it's great because it shows them that it's possible, and it's also going in a positive direction. And basically these guys have the skills to do it, so they're out there. They're doing it.
Yeah, to be honest, the freestyle stuff was cool, but I like watching. Like I know the ESPN Extreme Games are coming on, which I think
coming
are
up again
killer,
next week.
which I think are killer, and they do a lot of the street stuff that they do there. With I hate to say those kids, but the stuff they're doing is like just even watching Tony Hawk, which isn't one of the young guys, the stuff that he still did, he came back out of retirement and just dominated.
Well, see, Tony Hawk can do that because he has the old tricks that he mixes in with the new, and he stays up to date technologically on all the new tricks. Plus, you're talking about skating vert. You don't just get on a board and jump on a vert ramp and just rip unless you have some sort of background. And he has not only that background, but he also has the ability to do the new tricks, and that's why he does so well even today.
David from Moore Park, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
Hey, how's it going, Ricky?
What's up, Dave?
Hey, not much. Yeah, I was like totally into the punk scene in the late 70s and went to the Starwood where they did that Decline of Civilization. And yeah, did you ever go to Godzilla's after that?
Godzilla's was like under a freeway, like in Pacoima.
Right.
Well, it was like under a freeway.
They was out in Burbank, I think, close to the freeway, and the Damned used to play there all the time, which was really just, if you missed the Damned there, then you really never saw the best gig.
Yeah, but remember, they'll always get back together. That's one of those bands like, it's them and the Ramones and the Rolling Stones. That they'll always break up and get back together one more time.
Yeah, did you ever hear of a band called Aggression?
From Oxnard.
Yep. Exactly.
Those are the boys, the
Silver
Silver Strand locals.
Yeah, they used to like totally rooting for those guys.
Hey, David, did you hear the new Slayer record doing a lot of the old songs?
It's really killer.
You know what's so funny? The thing that's really cool is I thought that a lot of people that were from back in that scene would really hate the fact that Slayer is doing like TSOL songs and doing DI. Have you heard it?
No.
It's Slayer doing Richard Hung Himself by DI, Abolish Government by TSOL. They do like a Minor Threat song. They do all these songs. And the fact is, I mean, it's actually kind of killer. Let's talk to Adriana from Alhambra on Real Radio 97.1.
Hello, Ricky. Hello, Tony. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I was wondering, I used to have the biggest crush on you when I was a youngster. Now I'm 30. And I was wondering if you ever...
So what happened?
What happened with what?
With the crush.
Oh, I'm married now, so that I got over that. That was a long time ago, but I still have all your pictures from the Skateboarder magazine cut out, and they're all in a nice little photo album. But I was wondering if you know what happened to Ellen O'Neill.
Well, the last I heard of Ellen, what was she doing? Well, see, we did that movie Skateboard together.
Right, and I saw it.
Yeah, she was a freestyle specialist in that. Last I heard, she was living in San Clemente. She was working some sort of regular job, and she's a nice, wholesome girl, but she had her wild side, believe me. We had some good times together filming Skateboard.
Oh, man, sorry I cut you off like that. It bums me out every time I get off the 90 and have to look at the Marina Athletic Club. I just got to say, and if my wife is so sick to death of me saying, right there, they had the greatest skate park. Because the Marina Del Rey skate park, to me, was one of the best skateboard parks.
Oh, yeah.
Because after, in the late days, they would, like we were talking earlier, they had shows there. Devo did the Freedom of Choice video.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that were filmed there, and basically the place was just state-of-the-art as far as, like, you know, bowls and runs and everything else. And, you know, there was a whole generation of skaters that came out of that area as well as that era.
This is Tootie from Pico Rivera.
Hi, Tony. Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Tootie.
Hi, Tootie.
I'd just like to say I love you, my boyfriend loves you, and I've got a 6-year-old kid now who's starting to skate, and we've taken him to Kenner and Paul Revere, and he loves it.
Wow.
And, yeah, and I just think that, you know, your view on skating now is really cool. I think you're a great
Don't say role model now. But
yeah, but he is. You
but
know?
it's a funny thing.
Thank you for the compliment.
Because I think the thing then, Tony, is that a lot of us, everybody was looking up to you guys, and maybe I don't know if you didn't realize the sort of a responsibility. But there were people that were looking at what you guys did and wanted the whole Alva Adams type of attitude, you know. And
well,
now
we were the originals, and what we did was we pumped up an attitude. I think that created a lot of good competition, and it made skateboarding go forward. And I think that it was directly related to surfing and everything, but it kind of set skateboarding in its own direction. Like learning how to skate vertical, nobody knew how to even do a kick turn on vert until we came in and started riding pools and ramps and showed them actually that you could, on a skateboard, ride up a vertical surface and back down and survive.
And this is Mark. Whoa, I just spilled coffee all over the place. Mark from Long Beach.
Ricky, how's it going?
Hey, Mark.
Tony, how you doing?
Hey.
I had a question. What do you guys think of the products that are out there now compared with products that were in the past? And also, I'm going to ask you this question because, Ricky, I gave you a skateboard like 2 or 3 years ago. That was like a hunk of junk. But
2 or 3 years ago?
3 or 4 years ago. You had to wear the shirt on MTV. Maybe
was it in the Valley, a company?
Yeah, it was.
Counterfeit?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And anyway,
I still have it. It's green.
yeah, I don't know what you think of that product, but products that are coming out now compared with products that were coming out then, and do people have rights to things that they might have invented or came up with back then that they're getting credit for now?
That's funny that you bring that up because Larry Stevenson invented the kicktail, and he patented it, and he tried to enforce that, and it's almost nearly impossible. You can't take a patent like that, basically, and hope to, like, sue people and get your money, out of that whole deal. I think that the new equipment that's out right now, I mean, basically it's generic. There's a lot of shapes that are generic and stuff. It just depends on your lamination process and whether you have a good product. Something that's not only of professional quality, but that's going to last, and that's something that the kids, basically are going to like. I mean, a lot of the generic shapes are not for me. That's why with my line, I do 8 different boards, 2 long boards, 2 street boards for the generic little street skaters, and in between are all the boards that I really like. I think that are back from late 70s, 80s templates and outlines that have 90s concave.
But you got to do the old graphics.
Oh, the
You
classic.
gotta.
Well, the classic
I-
graphics are something that people ask for, but it's not everybody's piece of pie. You know, it's not everybody's deal. So I try to offer like
the blue
a little bit of
board with the
everything.
yellow with the pink things all over it.
That's the classic 80s template with, the graphics back then were the original graphics that came out of the punk scene and the new wave scene and all that. And a lot of photographers that I work with and people like that started out have been very successful even to this day because they were part of that scene.
Larry from Ventura, you're on Real Radio 97.1.
Yo, Big Daddies, what's shaking?
Larry.
Hey, look at trivia for you there, Rick. I heard you talking about the Starwood on the New Wave nights.
Yes.
Do you remember who DJ'd there?
Rodney Bingenheimer.
Oh, you're awesome. You blew me out on that one.
Sorry.
You can find him at Candor still late at night.
Oh, no, I don't care about Rodney. We used to wear Angry Samoan shirts and make him mad.
Because remember that?
Because I wrote that song about him.
You remember the Samoans?
Yes. Okay, you want to hear a great story?
Talk to me.
When I was like 13 years old, I went to audition to be the singer of the Angry Samoans.
Get out. So you know PJ.
I don't remember anything that happened. I remembered it was in downtown L.A.,
Right.
and I remember the song they had a house in the valley.
That's right by Universal.
Were you in that band?
No, I used to play in Aggression and Stalag 13.
Wow, then I know you too, man.
What's up, PA?
Yeah.
I go back old school with all the northern Oxnard stuff here. Even did a little Dr. No trip for a while. But hey, I got another
So you know
question.
Brandon?
Yeah, that's right, Brandon.
He just had a kid and he's probably listening. He's
Right on.
I still talk to Brandon.
Hey, Brandon. Calls in. But here's a quick one. Did you guys ever get tired of the Oxnard scene and then go up north, hang at the Vats, do the old on Broadway and the Tool and Die?
Oh, yeah. We used to, I mean, that was a good place to get in a fight in the alley, that's for sure, right there at the Mabuhay, the famous brawling grounds, because the skinheads were real belligerent up there, so we used to go up there just
and in Oxnard, people say the same. I mean, I don't go to shows up in Oxnard, but people say the same thing.
Oxnard scene is hardcore as far as the surfing even goes. You don't surf there, man, unless you got your act together. Yeah.
Hey, Larry, thanks for calling.
All right, man, cheers.
Tony, thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
This was like really killer. And you still got product out and everything like that.
As a matter of fact, if we're speaking about that, I'd just like to thank all my West Side dealers, like Rip City, ZJ's, Hot Rod. We've got up here on Melrose, Atomic Garage and Flipside and stuff. And those are the people that have supported skating. They really believe in it. They love it.
Okay, we're going to put on one last call.
They help me sell Alva skateboards.
We're going to put on one more call since we're talking about the whole scene. James.
Ricky.
What's up?
Tony, how are you?
Hey, James, what's up?
This is James MUIR from Dogtown.
Hey, Jimmy, what's happening, bro?
What's happening, man?
All right.
How are you?
See, now James is another guy that's bringing back a lot of the old stuff, because you guys got some, I'm just saying it because I wear a lot of the...
He's an entrepreneur. He's got his own line.
But still have the Dogtown stuff going on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and what do you think? Does it seem like a lot of the guys that are all our age are kind of getting back into it, or do you think it's mostly the young kids that are into the Dogtown, Alva type stuff?
I don't know. I think it's a little bit mixture of both. Same with Tony stuff. Hey, turn the radio down, please. I can't hear.
Keep it together there, Jim.
Yeah.
We're on the air, baby.
There's a lot of the guys from the old school that are popping up and think that they had something to do with skateboarding where it's at now, and think that the industry owes them something. But as far as the kids go, I don't know, there's a little mixture of both.
Yeah.
I think what Tony's doing and what I'm doing has a definite place in the market. It's got its own niche.
Yeah, and you kind of also, Dogtown is out there making, clothes, like, other than just T-shirts and stuff now, too.
Yeah, I'm trying to expand it into, the different markets, snowboarding and the clothing lines.
Did you
everything that I've always been into, the surfing and snowboarding and skating.
We got a break right now. Did you go see your brother play last night?
Yeah, I did.
How was the show?
It was great.
I'm so bummed.
Santa Ana as well.
I'm so bummed that we missed it.
Oh, it was a good scene.
Well, Jim, we got a break, but thanks for calling in, bro.
Hey, Jim, skate tough, man. Hang in there.
Good seeing you, Tony. Good talking to you.
All right, peace.
James MUIR from Dogtown. Tony, again, thanks for stopping by.
No problem. It's
We'll
my
do this
pleasure.
again, like later on in the summer or something.
Yeah, if you get a good
There's
response.
a trade show coming up in Long Beach.
If you get a good response to this, I'd love to just come and, just rap with the guys anytime, man.
I'll
Just
have a blast.
Touch base with the people.
It's Real Radio 97.1.